Hello, good evening everyone. We've got a new challenge today after a while against Mr. The Combinator, rated about 2200, and we already have a bit of an off-bit system with this move order. So the first move were e4, knight c6, knight f3 and d6. Well, so I think I will grab the chance to grab the center, or rather seize the chance. Okay. I think I recall seeing this type of opening theory at some place, but as I recall it, it's considered to be just quite a dubious variation for black. Now his immediate threat is to put pressure against my pawn on d4 with his capture on f3, so maybe e5 is the move to follow. So I'm considering either bishop e3 to bolster my control on d4, or bishop e2, stepping out of the spin. Let's go with bishop e3. I think that's a sensible move. I think I've checked the theory of this line quite a while ago. I'm not exactly sure what's the right way to fight for the advantage as white, but at the same time this is not one of those very sharp openings where you have to know your stuff extremely well. I feel like I should be okay with just making common sense moves. For example, now I think I recall h3 being a good move here, probably even followed by pawn to g4. So let's play h3. If he takes on f3, he's surrendering the two bishops advantage, which is definitely in my favor. So yeah, he plays bishop h5. Now, so g4 definitely comes to mind. Then he drops his bishop on g6, attacking my pawn on e4. Should I really do it? Also interesting is to consider moves like d5, just trying to take advantage of my mobile pawns in the center. Once again, not completely sure about it, but d5 seems very interesting to me. And if he follows with knight e5, I have this resource of playing g4. Yeah, let's try it. Let's see where this is taking us. Definitely not sure that this is the most correct move, but once again, this is a bit of a fast game, so I should just go with my intuition, not thinking too deeply about those kind of decisions. So yeah, knight e5, and now g4 was the move I was planning for, but he decided to do it without taking on d5, which is interesting because I just assumed he would insert those moves. So now I don't see anything particularly wrong with g4, so I'll probably do it. Please notice that tactics such as knight takes g4 probably doesn't work, because I always have the opportunity to bolster my control over the knight on f3 with move like bishop e2. So now he dropped his knight at bishop to g6, and now I was counting on this check on b5 to cause some troubles for him. I'm not sure whether he missed this check or did he just underestimated it, but to me it seems like a very annoying move for black to face, because if he plays king e7, he's almost get checkmated by the move bishop c5. So I think the move knight e7 is practically forced. Yeah, which is definitely Not a very happy move to make. So now I have some choices. Now I can inflict some damage to his pawn structure with a move such as d takes e6. I can also try to preserve the pressure. What I would really like to do here is to castle long, because this would enable me to put even more pressure on the d file. So moves like queen d3, for example, are coming to mind. But I'm not sure whether should I take on e6 or not. I probably should. Let's take on e6. And now queen d3. Queen d3. Also interesting is bishop to g5, trying to deflect the queen, because if he takes on g5 I have queen takes d7 checkmate. But he can just block it with bishop e7, so I'm not sure whether this is really leading anywhere. Okay, let's go with queen d3. So if he plays a6 or c6, I will probably drop my bishop on c4, and I will try to put some pressure on his pawn on e6. If he does nothing special, my next move is long castle. Once again, the pressure on the d file is extremely strong, so I think the move c6 at some point is forced to drive this bishop away from this diagonal. So let's see, can he do something else other than c6? Probably not. So now I have no point keeping my bishop there, so he's going for a very quick move, knight to c5, offering me the exchange of queens. Now of course it's very tempting to just exchange the queens. But also queen e2 is interesting, trying to keep the queens on the board, because his king position is slightly compromised. Tough decision. So I can also take a pawn by force if I want to, so to exchange queens, followed by bishop takes knight, and then to take the pawn on e6. But it's a very big question, do I really want to take this kind of pawn, because then black will get a very strong initiative on the dark squares. Yeah, I'm running a bit low on time. I think the position is good for white, but my opponent keeps playing very quick moves, which make it a bit hard on me. I think queen e2 is probably the most interesting choice out of all of my other options. But it's a very double-edged move, because you can grab a pawn in the center. Yeah, that's a tough decision. I'll probably take my time to think about it. Okay, time's running a bit low, so I will go for playing for a small advantage with the move f3. So instead of taking the pawn on e6, I shall just bolster my control over the e4 square. And then his light squared bishop, as you can see, is very much limited by my pawn structure. I think this is why it still keeps the initiative here. The only thing which makes my position slightly less convenient from what it might have been is my pawn on g4. If I could, I would like it to be back on g2, and then I would have no weaknesses at all. Now still this pawn might be slightly exposed after he will eventually develop his bishop somewhere and put a rook on f8 to pressurize my pawn on f3. So my evaluation of this position would be slightly better for white, but black definitely has his own chances, his own counterplay. So bishop f7 was played, so now he's just protecting this pawn. But please notice that this light squared bishop is a very passive piece. Okay, so what options do we have now? First of all, b5 is a very annoying move to face from him, so I think I will play a4 for now, just to stop this option forever. Because if he will play b5, I will be forced to drop my bishop to a much less active square. Also, if black does nothing, I might consider pushing my pawn forward and grabbing some space on the queen side. So b6 was played. Now I think I will play my king to e2. I don't really see any particular reason to castle, as this is an endgame. Queens are off the board. I also need to protect my pawn on f3, which is a potential weakness. And of course I also connect my rooks. I think the really big question in this position is, do I want to exchange rooks or not? Because if I want, I can just play rook d1 with one of my rooks, and the exchange of rooks would be inevitable for him. I might also, but that's the thing, that I'm not really sure that I really gain anything special by the exchange of rooks. Let me try to grab some space on the king side with the move h4. I kind of like this move because I take away this square from his bishop. I also want to push my pawn to h5, and by this I further limit the movements of his bishop, which now can never really get to the g6 square. So I'm under 3 minutes at this point. It definitely means I should increase my tempo. Okay, knight b7. He wants perhaps to improve the position of his knight, even though I think his knight was already very well positioned. I probably wouldn't play this move myself, but now my knight on c3 is very badly placed. He has nothing to search. I'm thinking, where would I want it to be? Probably d3 is a very good square, putting pressure on this knight. So I have this maneuver. Okay, so let's try to do it. Knight d1. So if I able to put my knight on d3, then his pawn on e5 would be under quite a severe pressure, and because these pawns are doubled, it will be quite difficult for him to defend this pawn. King d7 was played, so he tries to keep his king in the center also, perhaps. But now my knight reached his goal square, and I believe now black has to play a bit of a passive move, so it's either bishop d6. I really don't see any alternatives actually to the move bishop d6, because bishop f6, the other way to protect the pawn, is just met with pawn to g5. So I believe that he is forced to play bishop d6 at this point. But what is this? Isn't this move just blundering a pawn? Well, I'm not sure I understand his last move, but I will just go and grab the pawn. It's also hitting his bishop, so I'm getting a nice tempo in this move. I probably just blundered this pawn. Maybe after knight d3 didn't see his pawn was hanging, even though I believe white's position was quite good in any case. I think also one of his problems that he doesn't have a very good square for his bishop to drop, because g8 looks like a very terrible square for the bishop, keeping this rook in a cage. Bishop e8 is also very bad, very passive square. Yeah, so he decided just to go with the move rook f8. Yeah, now I have a lot of good options. I kind of like the move bishop g5, trying to exchange some pieces, having the material advantage. Also b4 is a very nice move, driving this knight away. Yeah, I think the move b4 just works tactically, so why shouldn't I play it? See no reason, let's go for b4. So my point is just to drive this knight away from c5, and regardless of where this knight is going, I'm going to take this bishop on f7, and by this I will secure another pawn. Yeah, my pawn on b4 is hanging also, so this might give him a slight hope, but I actually seen this through, and I think I can just drop my bishop here, and if he takes on b4 I have this nice tactic bishop to g5, skewering his rooks. I think this works. Some very long time. Yeah, let's drop the bishop. So I'm 2 pawns up at the moment. Okay, now he's enabling this move. I don't see any reason not to do it. Maybe he's counting on sacrificing the exchange, maybe trying to penetrate d2. But I believe this is not enough to compensate the loss of the exchange, because the rook on d2 doesn't have any clear targets to attack. The pawn on c2 is very adequately protected. So I believe Black should be in quite serious troubles at this point. H6, but this is a really strange move. Yeah, he has this one check, but really, as I said, this one check, I believe, is not fully compensating him. Now the only thing which is left for me is to exchange this active rook. So rook d1 would be the obvious move, but then he has this a bit of annoying move, rook g2. So wow, so long time. Okay, let's go rook d1. Now he has to play this move. He has some dark squared compensation, but I believe it's not enough. Okay, let's go here. It's a bit of a risky move, but once again, this is an endgame. I want to get my king active. I'll try to get to these weak pawns. I'm slightly low on time. I hope it will not affect the rest of the game. Did I blunder something? Probably I did. Yeah, probably blundered the exchange. I still have the pawn up though, so I should still have a very good position. Also have the advantage of a bishop versus a knight. But now it's definitely more complicated than it was before. That's the price you pay when you play when you play slowly. So I believe I should have good winning chances. I have this 3 versus 1 advantage on the king side. I should be able to create a passed pawn very fast. Yeah, of course, the tricky part is the fact that he has a knight. Now, a knight is definitely inferior to a bishop in this kind of position where there are pawns on both flanks. So the bishop outpowers the knight, but on the other side, in time trouble, a knight is a much more tricky piece to deal with. Yeah, so now I think I'll sacrifice one pawn with the move g5, and I will just try to push my g-pawn forward, because this pawn is having the same promoting square as the bishop, so it should be very strong. So he took one pawn, but now my pawn on g6 and together with my very active king on f6, I believe should provide a winning position. Yeah, but he will obviously try to play for some tricks. So, well, Yeah, time is very low. Yes, let's play king g7. The king is blocking the pawn at the moment, but when it will reach h7, for example, it should be not pose a big problem. My rook is not very active. I think on the next moves I should definitely try to improve its situation. But really the main issue is, can he stop this pawn on g6 without losing too much material? King d7. Okay, king h7. Wow, I played I played the move with very few seconds on my clock, but g7 is a huge threat. Can he do something about it? Notice that I didn't take the pawn on h6, because this pawn actually might help me to shelter my king from all kinds of checks. So I really don't need this pawn. I don't see much of a salvation for him here. Yeah, he played king e7. Oh, that's a tricky move, but I have this check. And now I'm going to take the knight. And now I'm going to promote a full queen. Yeah, so he resigned. Yeah, this was a very intense game. Let's analyze the situation a bit. Yeah, so I believe I was better throughout the game as a whole, but yeah, g4, yeah, d5 was the strongest move. Yeah, and I held a solid advantage. I went a bit wrong. So the computer says that I should have played d takes e6 first, and only then, and then knight g5. Well, this is definitely difficult to see in a blitz game. I actually thought that this was a very good solution, but the computer is not too impressed. He only thinks I'm slightly better here. But apparently the move bishop f7 was a mistake, because it allows me a4, and now he says that I'm quite clearly better. And yeah, here, as you can see, my advantage is very significant, almost +2. But knight c5 just blunders a pawn. I believe after this his position is very bad. So it was a nice game. I enjoyed it. It was very intense at the end, with the time trouble, but I think I never lost control in the position. So as a whole, it was a good game. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like the content on this channel, don't forget to subscribe, to leave some comments below if you want to see some more stuff, or different time controls that I should play. And see you in the next videos. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.